On this episode, we're going to be talking all things giggly and laughter and how does it sit in the workplace and can you make any money out of it? My guest today is Stephanie and she's all the way from up the north, but she now lives down here. They usually do, you know, it's warmer. I think you should really stay and watch because it's going to be a laugh. When Ollie said that you were coming on, I was going, what do you mean? How do we make money out of laughter? So I want to find out about that. But first and foremost, you were a stand-up comedian for nearly 10 years.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Do you know what? When you first start, you're rubbish. Every comedian will tell you nightmare stories. You've got to die to be good. Yeah. But it's what taught me about being who I am. It taught me about confidence. It taught me reading and writing. And I absolutely loved it because I love being challenged. There was one there's several nightmare stories, but the one that sticks out is there's Liverpool University. They have a massive hall, De Montfort Hall, and they have a stand-up night in there. I walked out on stage and the room is massive. I'd probably done about 10 gigs up to that point, and they'd gone well because generally those 10 gigs were attended by my friends and family. And I thought I was quite cocky about it. And I walked out and it just took my breath away and I stumbled over my first few words. And the first few people and students are a nightmare audience.
Grisly,
They're horrendous. They started the slow clap and it just spread around the room. So if you think about, I reckon 300 or 400 people slow clap. They weren't giving up, and that was it. I just had to leave the stage.
Did you leave the stage?
It was horrendous. There's no. I could have come back, and I learned lots from that. You learn a lot from the dying part, but I tried for 5-6 minutes, and they wouldn't give up the slow clap, and
because
I just walked off.
It's interesting, that analogy, because we do it, you know, as entrepreneurs. We need to fail, and we need the scars, very deep sometimes, because that's a real deep one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you'll never be cocky again on anything you ever go to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
And how did that go? Was that a good career when you got it? When you actually finally got it going and you got your thing down? Did that pay the bills? And you know.
But did it pay the bills? Probably not. No. And that's why I got into what I do. And stand-up is a really hard forum to get into to earn money because you'll probably do, well, when I was doing it, so I'm 47 now, that was when I was 19, 20 I started. Right. But even then, when I got good at it, you're doing gigs, probably getting paid £120 tops a night. Yeah. And you'll do Thursday, Friday, Saturday at that level. It's very rare you'll do a Thursday, Friday and Saturday every night at that level. Yeah. You might do a Tuesday or Wednesday night for 40, 50 quid. Yeah,
it's not even paying the bills, is it?
No. So I did bits of TV, but TV don't pay because they expect you to do it for free. Yeah. So I reckon, yes, I had a career in it, and if I'd stayed longer term. But the other thing of it is I started to realise I love comedy, and I always do one gig a year to check I'm still funny and to keep me sharp. Yeah. And I reckon if I'd stayed at it, I probably could have gone further. But I started to realise that I was going to these gigs, and when you get good, you do Jongleurs and you do the Comedy Store, and they're hard gigs. And I was a woman at the time when women didn't do comedy. And so you go out on stage and it was just crowd control. It wasn't even comedy because you were batting away some of the not even clever heckles, but just the quite aggressive, offensive heckles. So it got to a point where, was I enjoying it? I wasn't sure if I was anymore.
And tough as a female?
Very tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be asked how many gigs you'd done, which men don't get asked that. You'd also be told, we've had a woman on this month, so we're not going to have another one for another couple of months.
Wow.
And that, I think that still happens. I think that still happens. I think what you see on the TV is more balanced than what you see in the actual comedy clubs.
Okay. And did you do the Edinburgh Festival thing?
I did.
I've never been, and it's on my bucket list to go and do it. But it looks amazing. And the stories you're hearing and everything, it looks fantastic. Yeah. And is that a good place to go and die or be successful?
I think it's a good place to go and die. it breaks you, the Edinburgh Festival. And I only did 2 weeks, and I did, it was a group of us, and we went up and we did a thing called Four Blondes and a Blackhead.
Right.
And it was an improv show. And then we all did a little bit of stand-up each night, or introduced it or compared it. So we got that. And we did what we call the free fringe, so we didn't lose the money. And the venue was brilliant. They promoted it. And we had... The least we had one night was 10 in an audience, which is good when you think about the Edinburgh Festival. Yeah. There's people who pay loads and they get 2 a night. Wow. And then, but most nights we had a full room of like 50.
Right.
And then we'd pass a hat round at the end, and that'd be our dinner.
Right.
And we'd done gigs all the way up to it because I'm very commercially minded, to pay for our stay. Yeah. So we didn't lose money, but you hear people go up, and then we only did 2 weeks. You hear people doing 4 weeks, same show, every night. They're just broken. You just see comedians who are sorely destroyed at the end.
And where's the moment, Steph, where you went, hang on a minute, I can monetize this in another way, because that's what you've obviously done. And where was that sort of ha-ha moment? How did that happen?
I remember, so when I first left uni and I started stand-up, and I did performing arts at university, and part of that was community arts. And because I was using comedy, and comedy helped me to learn to read and write and do all that, I started to think, could I take comedy into schools to help young people with their reading and writing skills? Because school I found off-putting, boring, I was disengaged.
Because the whole thing is you are very dyslexic, the same as me. So that was part of the hook to getting you to come on the pod. But we'll talk about that in more detail later on. But go on, carry on.
So I thought, if someone had come into school and taught me stand-up and said, right, I want you to write a routine, well, that would have engaged me. There's a purpose. Yeah. So I wrote to the local education authority many years ago when they had little grants. Yes. And I won a little grant, and I worked with the Comedy Trust in Liverpool. I wrote to them and said, look, I've got this idea. I've got local authority interested to take something into schools and do stand-up. And they loved it. So my role was to take comedy into schools to help young people like me with their reading and writing skills. I wasn't interested in that, to be honest. I was just interested in getting these young people up and feeling confident and feeling like they had something to be good at. Yeah. And that snowballed into, I remember someone asking me one day, my husband works at Barclays. They'd be really interested in you coming in and doing humour with their leaders. I was like 22, 23. I said yes, and then thought, shit, what does that even mean? Yeah. But as an entrepreneur, you go, yeah. And you see Barclays and you think, there's something in this. And I walked into this world and it was very grey. There was grey suits. I observed the leaders talking first, and I thought, how dull are they? And I even remember saying to the guy who commissioned me, I don't think I'm your person, because that's not the way I would talk. And he said, that's exactly why we want you. Right. So I worked. So
whoever was asking you to do that, they were quite visionary, really. Yeah. That person that was asking you, sort of asking you to come and create something for them. Yeah. That's very cool.
Because they realised that, years ago, and it's not that much different now. In the world of work, we almost walk in and we become these robots that stop communicating in this really normal way, and we use jargon and language that disengages people. Yeah. And actually what engages people the most is storytelling. Yeah. So I created this program and this course, and I also supported on there keynotes and delivered a keynote myself. And that was my introduction to the corporate world. And as you know, as an entrepreneur, you kind of go, okay.
Yeah, but Steph, you must have had to do some fast thinking there, because you've created a program. Like the guy was clever to think that this could help his department or wherever he was coming from. But you've then created a whole program to make that a saleable product, and for people to chatter about it, for others to buy. And I would imagine you've honed that down.
Yeah, and it's not just that. So what Laughology does is we are a culture organisation, really. Right. We go into organisations, and under the spectrum of culture, we look at how managers manage, how leaders think differently, all through the lens of humour, how you can present, how you create teams that are engaged in change, how you get people to learn differently when there is change going on.
Yeah.
Because a lot of workplaces, they just don't know how to talk to people.
And change, when you're building teams that change, people don't like change. I mean, and you've got to deliver it to them in a way that they can see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, here we're a very close community. I was talking about people having a career, not a job.
Yeah.
We try and find people that are going to fit. Strange, isn't it? I think they're quite capable to do the job, but will they fit in to the team and the community that we've already got running? And the other thing that I think is really, really crucial is that they are hard-working, happy people. And happiness, I know you're on today, but when I was thinking about it, we're coming in this morning, that happiness, people happy at work, it's either that or forget it. I mean, why would you come in? Why would you bother?
Yeah, and people have this really odd idea of happiness.
Yeah.
That means that then, happy at work, it's happy clappy. That means we can't ever have difficult conversations or challenge people. And absolutely the opposite is true. If you get the foundations right, where you get people feeling that they can challenge you, that they're safe, that they've got a brilliant relationship, that you have a laugh, that you have a friend at work, then actually you're more likely to be able to have people who engage in change, who are challenged, who can have those difficult conversations. But it's not about this idea that we'll never have a bad day.
What's your definition of happiness? That's a good question. What's your definition of happiness? How would you describe that back to someone?
So happiness is fleeting. And we have moments of joy within that. But I always talk about there are 5 key things that help us to be happy. So first one is coping skills, because we can't be happy all the time. So knowing how to get by in life. You've got positive relationships, support and community. So supporting others and also getting support. But supporting others is really, really key. And like you said, that community. Learning, continually learning, and having purpose and feeling included.
I think that's where I'd be with you on that. Is that whilst you're growing, you're happy. That whole thing of learning more means that you're not stale, if for a better word, but you're growing and happy. Yeah. And
I worry about where we're going with this idea as well, because you're right, growing is so important, and not just growing but stretching. And I worry about where we're going with this idea that stress should not be part of that, that stress and anxiety is part of growing, that actually for us to fail and fail catastrophically, and for us to be offended, and for us to be put in positions where we don't know what to do, that's when the brain stretches and grows. And we've got to this point, especially in workplaces and in schools, where we're saying stress is bad and anxiety is bad. It's not.
No, it's not. No,
it should be part of it.
I did a post in the week talking about that stress is a privilege.
Yeah.
Stress is a privilege, and as entrepreneurs, we bring it on ourselves,
Yeah.
and we do, because that's what we're like. I've this whole happiness thing. I think it's to do with the people that you're with that are helping you have a happy time. And this entrepreneur gig is about doing it with people. You can't just do this solo thing on its own. I also think that on happiness, it's really to do with achievement and having purpose and being upbeat and state of mind. I mean, the state of mind is a bugger, isn't it? Because you sometimes have to force it on yourself, don't you? You have to force a state of mind. Yeah. I know I come over the bridge when you come here to Badder Park Estate. It's beautiful. You come over, then you turn on the bridge, and I think you have to pick it up a step. We're in performance. I'm definitely in performance mode when I'm over that bridge, because I have a lot of responsibility to making sure that I radiate that out to the staff, that it is a positive place to be, and we use it as a little microclimate of happy place to work. So I'm very interested that what happens when they helicopter you into a company? You know, how bad is it?
So it's funny that you say that about that faking it. You know, there's times when I just don't fancy being happy.
Yeah. Especially with your job.
And I can't walk in and go,
happy.
oh, I'm having one of those days. You know, people go, oh gosh, the head of happiness here, and she's miserable. Look, there's organisations, and I can't always mention names, but there's one that they were recently... they were the new owner of something that we all use and we all know, and they're the new owner. And the old owners, the culture that they'd had, some of the people who'd worked there were quite disgruntled that the new owners had come in, and it was really important that the people who worked there were brought over and bought into this new ownership, because they had all the tacit knowledge that they're the ones that are going to keep it going.
Yeah.
And it was my job to get them talking to the new people who'd been brought in. And it was really difficult. And also going into workplaces, I don't ever go, right, we're going to be happy. The important thing is to say it's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel upset about this. But also, we can also draw a line, and we can either say, I'm going to stay here in this narrative making myself and others miserable, or we can look at what's in our control, what we can do, and what I can do to help this culture, to help move things forward, or sometimes I can leave.
Yeah. When we have our we have like a Tuesday meeting of all the companies, so all the managing directors, all the heads of departments come together on a Tuesday at about 10:30, and that's a great gathering. Everybody's, you know, some people don't work together, so they catch up and stuff. But I always try, if I attend, to make sure that meeting ends in a high, happy note, because we might be doing some tough love in that meeting. You know, we were meant to bring it to us, and we're still 2 weeks down, and no one's brought it to us. So what do you want to do? Or do you not want to do it anymore? Or, you know, and it can get a bit tough love and a bit awkward, and the figures are not good. You know, all that stuff that happens with business. I always try at the end of it to say, you know, have something of joy to go away from, so they have just a skip in their step, and, you know, and also they have, what else am I trying to say, Steph? We care about their welfare at work, and part of their welfare is definitely that they enjoy what they do, you know.
Yeah, I think that's important, and I think it's important that we do take responsibility for how people feel. We can't make people feel anything, but we can absolutely create an environment where people flourish, where they feel like they belong, where they feel like they can talk to you if I'm having a tough day. And then if we do all that, then the tougher conversations, they go, well, I get you've got my back, and you need to say this, because actually without a business I've not got a job.
So your business could be called Culture Executive, couldn't it? It could be.
But that'd be really boring, wouldn't
it? And I think you get better sales saying happy. It's a better title saying that. This whole thing, Steph, with comedy, where's the seedlings? Where does it actually come from? Is it back at school? You know, it must have come from somewhere, or your parents, or where has it come from?
I'm a show off. That's what it is, James.
Join the club.
I mean, I'm surrounded by cameras and I've got a mic on me. I'm in heaven.
Right.
It's all about me. So at school, and at school, you don't know you're dyslexic, especially when I was at school. It wasn't a thing. I was just lazy and naughty. And I would struggle to read when it was a page that I'd not even seen before, especially when it comes to the more difficult stuff like Shakespeare and stuff like that. So,
and did they make you stand up?
So stand up.
I mean, it's just the worst thing ever. Who came up with that as an idea?
But I remember even every other Friday we had a spelling test, and I would have tantrums and tears because I just didn't know why they wouldn't get in my head. And then you'd be made up to stand up at the end because you were bottom of the class and to spell a word. And I was, you know. Yeah.
And the real thing about that is, I mean, and I'm sure people watching and listening, you a lot of my regular listeners are dyslexic as well. It is, you really think you're just an idiot.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you're just. you just think my brain is just crap and it won't stick, nothing's working. And to stop being, I'm a lot older than you, obviously, and I to stop being beaten up at school, just become the playground clown.
Yeah, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
I just became funny stuff. So I realised if I read something out and got it wrong, they'd laugh. Yeah. But if I realised if I read something out and deliberately got it wrong and made it even funnier, I could disrupt, not just get a laugh, but disrupt, waste a good 20 minutes, and eventually get sent out. Yeah. And that was that. And then I was funny stuff, and I was known for telling bad jokes. Yeah. And that followed me around school really. And eventually suspended twice, expelled once.
But that's hard because you're masking. You're constantly going in and masking every day to achieve that cruise through the day, and you're also just on performance mode, constantly. And where is the real Steph? Where is that creative person there when it's actually in your way of being who you really are, because you're having to get through the system that doesn't recognise or understand your shortfalls with dyslexia.
And also you're being put in a box, and when you do something good, they don't see it. No. I always remember writing a short story, and I'd put loads of work into it, and because it was hard for me to write, it was hard, and I'd drawn loads of pictures, so I'd done it more like a comic book. I was so proud of it. Wasn't even noticed, and I remember there was almost a point, it was so clear to me that I was like, well, what's the point? I will just mess about. And I had one brilliant teacher, Mrs. Harmer, and I'm so pleased I got to speak to her. She died a couple of years ago, to say thank you. And she saw something. I think either she saw that or she just had an agreement with the other teachers that she'd get me out of class. Yeah. And she put me into performing arts, and I did more of that stuff. Yeah.
And I think that is that we've all got those one teachers, haven't we? Yeah. Mr. Brooks was my metalwork teacher, and they try and mend you. We will give you extra writing lessons. They taught me to write on music paper. So I had to write the D's on the first two lines, then up with the top and then down. And it was just like the most protracted thing and frustrating thing in the world. But really should have just helped me with what I was good at. I was quite good at drawing. I was quite good with my hands. I always remember going in, Steph, and they were making a tie in needlework, and she was Mrs. Smith. And she was a German teacher, and she taught German, but she also taught needlework or what it was. And I got it really quickly. I understood that, so I made it while she was still showing the rest of the class. I finished it on the machine and done. Well, I thought that was fantastic. Well, she berated me and hit me with a ruler for going ahead without waiting for the rest of the class. And she said some words to me. She said, "You will never become anything the way you carry on and disrupt the whole class." And it was the best thing that she ever said to me, because it just really bristled me into action to actually remember that and use that as a trigger into later on in life. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure you feel the same. That how did it go with? You actually went to university though, didn't you? Yeah. How the hell did you do university?
So, even how did I do A-levels? So I was suspended and expelled once I got my GCSEs. And then my dad came back to the school and talked them in. He's a brilliant salesman. My dad was probably dyslexic as well, but brilliant salesman. And he talked them back in to take me on for A-levels, which I got 2 E's and N and a U, It was like pointless. Yeah. It's 2 years wasted of my life, but I don't know. I didn't know what else to do. The best thing was then I moved back to Liverpool, because I lived in the Isle of Man at the time. Yeah. We'd moved to the Isle of Man from Liverpool. Moved back to Liverpool, and I did a HND in Performing Arts. And then I got into the Performing Arts School in Liverpool, LIPA, the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts, and that was my first degree. So when you say degree, it was through interpretive dance. Right. Do you know what I mean?
That's right. We'll take it. As long as it's got degree on it, we'll take it.
And that's where I had a brilliant tutor there, identified him dyslexic, got me loads of help, and also made me think differently about myself. Yeah. So that's when I started taking stand-up into schools and doing stand-up. I've actually got a school report, which I love, which says Stephanie needs to learn that joking and clowning around is not a career option.
Oh, it's fantastic. Oh, you need to frame that. It needs to go straight on the wall, doesn't it? Yeah.
Actually, Mr. Hayward, I think you'll find it is.
Team, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to take a moment to let you know about Baddow Park Mastermind. I have created a mastermind for high-level entrepreneurs. There's only 16 spaces and we've only got a few left. If you often find you're the biggest fish in the pond at other masterminds, click the link in the pod description because this might be just for you. Now, back to the pod.
And from there, after, several years, and then doing stand-up in schools, doing a little bit of corporate work, that's when I went back to university, did a master's in psychology, with a real focus on humour in the brain, how it works, how we think differently using humour, but also how it can be used as a learning tool in organisations.
And did you do your whole thing on that?
On that, yeah.
Did you? Wow.
And I had a brilliant tutor there, David, who said to me, because I was like, there's no way I can do a master's. I'd learnt about University of Chester and how you can do your master's based on what you're doing as your work. And my professor there, he said to me, well, I'm going to allow you to present back some of your findings, your research, rather than writing it. And it was like, of course. Yeah. And he said it like it was the most normal thing in the world and made me feel really normal about it. And it was just me and him and another tutor in the room presenting back. Yeah. And I was like, well, why didn't school do this?
Well, I mean, I would always fail, and I see it even. I go back and talk at schools now for the upper guys, the 15-year-olds and the girls that are coming out to entrepreneurship, whatever. But that whole thing of it, you've got to regurgitate all of this stuff in an hour, and you don't know what the questions are. Go. And you've got to read the questions and do it. I mean, it's just like, it's the worst thing in the world. And where is I think there's lots of schooling going on, but is there any real learning? It's all about solving problems, Steph. Surely it is. And when we're going in business, isn't it? It's all about every single day is how do you solve this new problem from HR? How do you solve this new problem from timekeeping or whatever it might be?
And we don't need to store knowledge anymore. We've got ChatGPT. We don't need to store knowledge. Yeah. What we need to do is we need to understand how to apply that knowledge to different scenarios and situations, and we need to be creative. We also need to be resilient. We need to be able to get on with people. The amount of young people we see coming into workplaces and were brought in because they're not able to communicate, they're not able to even think about common sense stuff. I started writing a book, and one of the paragraphs was a hook about saying that in 2050 that reading and writing will be a recreation sport and not a necessity. Because I really don't think it will. I talk to every machine that I own, and it writes stuff down to me. It does stuff for me. In a minute, we'll just be thinking it, and it'll be happening. And in a minute, it's like literally in a few years away. And that's where I think it's going to be. So with ChatGPT, it all comes back again to the creativities are going to survive because they're the only ones that are adding any value that can't do. That machine can't do that. So it's very interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it can't be funny either. I've tried. I've asked it if it can be funny and tell me
a
joke.
Got a funny bone in there.
It's got levels of Christmas cracker jokes. Yeah. But so my husband's a writer, and
there's no irony coming back.
Absolutely, there's sarcasm there because it's too nice. ChatGPT's really nice, isn't it? It just tells you everything that you want, and it says sorry and stuff when you get mad with it. But my husband's a writer, and I keep saying to him, ChatGPT is putting you out of business. I'm the funny one. Don't you worry. I'll be fine. But you're right. You're absolutely right. We need to help young people use their brains differently. Yeah. And schools are so far behind. And look, I'm not saying it's schools' fault. They are driven by the government to have this data that is really unhelpful.
But I think, Steph, that's a whole nother podcast just there. If we got into the school system, it's like dinosaur land. It's terrible, and people have got to work their way through it, like we did. And I'm afraid that's it. That only the strong survive, or only the funny will survive through it. What what with the business side of things, the commercialism of it, how's that been? Has there been some real highs on that? Tell us about some superstar customers, because we want to know about that.
Highs and lows.
Yes.
So I started in 2026, then we hit the recession, then we've got, straight away, I got some brilliant customers. So your HSBCs of this world, your Barclays, Santander, Starbucks.
Wow.
Yeah, we work with Ulwin, who are the new national lottery owners. We work with some really big and also some brilliant smaller organisations, and we still have a schools arm as well. And we've got retaining business with some of these as well. And what I love particularly about HSBC is when I very first started, they wouldn't give me a business bank account because they said, it just won't work. It won't work. And now they're one of our biggest customers.
Yeah.
And I talk to them about that as well.
You've got to tell that as a story when you're in with them. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And how many team members?
So I've got 17. Wow. A lot of those they go out and deliver.
Yep.
It's so hard to recruit. We're recruiting at the moment. And then we've got a team of people behind the scenes who they do the proper work, the sales, the marketing,
but all the back
invoicing.
Office and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, even as a dyslexic, starting that business and not having anyone, because the procurement process of some of these big corporates are so complex.
Yeah, I can imagine, yeah.
You can't imagine how hard it is to read what you need to do to get paid. And then some of these, they outsource the procurement. You have to then go on a system that you have to pay for. So you have to pay to be paid. And when we talk about inclusion, and these organisations want to be inclusive organisations, they need to think of it from a supplier point of view as well.
And what is with that many team members, what are you doing day to day yourself? What does a typical Steph day look like for you now?
So it's anything between delivering, putting a proposal together, doing strategy, talking to the team, all that stuff. And people often say to me, you've got to draw back a little bit and not do as much as the delivery. But it would kill me. It would kill me because that's the part I love, but also that's the part that helps me to make the business great, because I know what's out there and what's needed by talking to these big business people.
And others coming through can come and buddy up and watch you work and stuff like that, and learn the craft from that.
Yeah.
What's a turnover in a year? How are you doing on that?
So we are due to get to 1.3 this year. I think we'll probably get further because we've hit our 1 million mark already. Okay. For the end of the year is what I'm saying, not just yet, but we've hit there. And I'm so pleased. And for me, of course it's got to be about money. But what I think, for me, as this little girl that wouldn't do anything, and so to be able to do that for me is really exciting.
No, very good. And I think that is a credit to your need to push forward with the one thing that you were pushed into was to do that with laughter. When you go in to do proposals with them, how are you finding the customers? Are they recommendations? Are they repeat customers? How does that work? Because it's a funny old thing that you sell, isn't it? Hello there, I'm here to sell this. Because is there anybody else trying to sell the stuff as well? Is there others?
There's similar companies, but they don't do the laugh part. That's what they're not as funny as us, James. Okay, there's other companies out there. They're just not as funny. That's the big
tick in the box.
I say that. I set myself a really high bar, don't I? Those big proposals, people have got to know us generally. It's very rare, although we do have it sometimes. But we've generally worked with someone, we've done a few workshops, we've done a few keynotes, and then I've talked to them about the other stuff that we do, and we're asked to pitch. And it's generally a pitch these days against other people, because there's got to be a fair process. And so you're given a brief, and then that brief is put together, and then you're put in front of a group of people. And what I'm brilliant at is bringing that to life. Is helping people to understand how we do it, because there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
You know, you'll have a number of brilliant companies who do change well. They do the process of change. They don't do the people part well. We do the people part brilliantly.
And do the companies implement it after the sessions or whatever has been delivered? Do you see that? Or is it, well, that's ticking the box now, back to work in your grey suits?
It's a real mix.
Okay.
And one of our values at Laughology is knowledgeable together. And what we mean by that is we can't just drop in and drop out and then suddenly everyone's doing what they do. We want to support you to be champions of that change. And that means leading, how you lead. That means reward and recognition. That means when people are stuck, really helping them, putting all the performance descriptors properly in place, catching up with people, revisiting it. Not all of them get that.
Right.
Some of them just want us to fix everything, and you can't.
You can't do it, no. And if they're, how are you hunting for new customers? How's that work? Are you doing socials or are you doing pay ads? How does that work?
All of the above. Conferences is a big thing for us.
Is
so
it?
we've just done the CIPD conference where we...
What is CIPD?
Sorry, the Chartered Institute for Professional Development is one of the biggest conferences and
do you get buyers go to that from these big organisations?
Yeah.
And is it mainly big organisations?
It's a mix. So they had, I think it was 20,000 people through each day this year, and that's it's 2 days.
And were you speaking there as well?
And I did 2 sessions because you've got a pitch for the sessions.
Yeah.
And we always pitch and do something really different. One of them this year was talking about It's Only Banter, how banter at work is changing, and how we absolutely need to be abreast of that.
Yeah.
And the other one was we did something called sticky learning. So how you can make learning stick when you're going through change and help people to enjoy it.
Right.
And because they're so on topic, but they're different as well, then we usually get a pitch. And that pitch, you'll get people who've got to sign up, but we're always oversubscribed. And there's people standing outside the door. And that shows what we do, because people really need to see Laughology to get it, that it's not about just having a laugh. We use humour to tell a story, to create a message, but also we use playfulness in activities to bring learning to life and make the brain understand what we're talking about.
And how do you navigate through all of the wokeness and all of the ageism and idioms and everything? It must be a nightmare.
It's changing. Yeah. It is changing. So for the first time, we have got 5 generations at work.
Yeah.
And we've not really had that before in this setting that we are now, where you've also got then HR and you've got the world is changing. And so we do have to accept comedy does shift every 10 years, and it absolutely should. You know, what was okay in the comedy clubs 10 years ago isn't okay now, and that's right. However, what we do not want to do is sterilise workplaces, and that's what's happening. Right. We can't say, or like I said before, it's almost like we shouldn't ever be offended. We should be offended. Yeah. You should be offended because you have an opinion. Now, there's 9 characteristics, protected characteristics, which we shouldn't, especially in the workplace, use as a way to banter things like pregnancy, sexism, gender, or ageism, all that kind of stuff. In the workplace, it's very different. It is a workplace. So we have to be careful. You go into a comedy club, there is a difference because you're choosing to be there, and it says comedy above the door. Yeah. But what's happened is we've got these 5 generations of people who used to say those things in the workplace and say, I'm only joking. And then you've got younger people coming through and quite rightly challenging it because it's sustaining a narrative. So that's where the clashes are happening. And that's where, for me, we have to have really open conversations, because what we don't want to do is then say, you're right and I'm wrong. It's about learning together and going, okay, so why did you? Let's explore that. What is offensive about it? Let's understand it rather than say that it's a black and white. We've got so much distance in the world and that we have to choose sides. Let's not choose sides. Let's use it as a way to talk. And humour is a beautiful tool that brings people together. So let's talk about how we use it in a positive way.
And it is, that whole workplace thing. I have people at work that I can talk to at a certain level, and others I couldn't do that. I have to be very careful and mindful and marshal myself to what I would do as a joke. I mean, my favourite joke at the moment that I've been using this week is, what's the difference between a hippo and a Zippo? One's quite heavy and the other one is a little lighter. I'll be here all week. So
I can see we're going to have to work with you.
Very much. I'll book straight up because I'm rubbish at jokes. And that lasts in my head about 10 days. And I'll completely forget it. It's gone. How do you retain stuff? I'm going back to stand-up now. How do you retain stuff? Or is it all scripted?
No. And I am a nightmare when it comes to that stuff, because people often get me in to do...
Did you like that, Ollie? No, that was a big no from Oliver.
Ollie's going to cut that bit out. We're going to re-edit it and make you really funny.
So go on, how do you retain stuff?
So for me, personally, I do what's called a set list, and they're keywords. And those words are 10 words, and I remember them in an order. And it might be things like, so when I was doing comedy, it might be single, because I used to be single, dating, car, drive, and they link to each other.
Right, okay.
And I remember them forward and backwards. And every single one of those words had a story. But then someone would say something in the audience, and I am so easily distracted. And I'm gone.
Yeah.
And then I think, where am I up to?
Right.
But as long as I've got those words, I can pick out those words
to bring in, and that they relate to the set that you've been working on. I mean, I watched them. That round robin thing is clever, isn't it? When they do that, and I used to watch Mock the Week. Like, I looked at a YouTube video about it. It was quite scripted in some ways. They did actually give them the headlines to what they were going to talk about, them all standing on the steps and stuff like that.
Well, even in improv, you know what games you're going to play. What you don't know is what you're given. But on TV particularly, when they do stuff like that, of course they're going to know, because they need to prep some of the stuff. But I think the best comics, you've got, do you watch Would I Lie to You?
Yes. Yeah.
And, you watch some of them, they're brilliant because they just go off script. And that's some of the best stuff.
I like Would I Lie to You. I mean, that is one of my go-to places for relaxation. I'll just put them on YouTube. And the funniest guy is Bob Mortimer.
Oh, every time.
I mean, he nails it, doesn't he?
He is just the absolute pinnacle of funny bones, what I call funny bones. You've got people who have to work at being funny. So Bob Monkhouse, I'm going ages back, used to talk about he had to work at being funny. And such a clever man. And he had every single joke in a book. Whereas Bob Monkhouse, Bob Mortimer must be Bob's name. He's just got funny bones. You just look at him and he doesn't say anything, or he says a word that's not funny. Like he talks about having pocket meat. That's just bloody brilliant.
And Bob Monkhouse was interesting because I went to see Bob Monkhouse at the Starlight Rooms. This is 1,000 years ago. It was the bluest
Good word.
Comedian I've ever seen ever. And he just went through the whole front row of ladies' names and stuff like that, and had a proper joke for every single one. Like you said, he had these books and books and books of jokes that got stolen, then returned, didn't there? There was a whole thing about it. And he had a very disabled son that was up at Whittam, and I used to go up there, and I was travelling through, and I stopped to the little corner shop, and he was in there buying all the kids' sweets and stuff like that. And I just sort of looked at him, and he said, "What else are you going to do?" And the kids would just come. They weren't kids with him. They were just, any kids knew it was Bob Monkhouse, and he would buy them sweets. And he was a great character back in the day. So it's a long time ago. But Bob Mortimer, his natural ability to make these names up and these stories, but underlining in that, there is a true story in there, because it's Would I Lie to You? And he just slaughters them. He wins every time. It's just brilliant.
Because absolutely you just brilliant. Love him, don't you? That's why. You've got to see the last laugh, by the way, if you seen it.
I've watched one.
No, not that. It's the stage show, and it's the stage show of Bob Monkhouse Eric Morecambe and what's he do? Tommy Cooper, and it's their stories.
And is it on now?
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's on tour. I went to see it at the Richmond Theatre, and now it's gone on tour. You will laugh, cry.
Okay.
It's one of the best pieces of theatre I've seen.
Because the one I thought you meant was the one to not laugh.
Yeah,
what is
I
that
know.
called?
That's called The Last Laugh.
That is called The Last Laugh.
Yeah.
Now that's a guy in Norway somewhere that
yeah.
did it all. He's sitting in his pants earning an absolute fortune because it's gone around the world.
Yeah.
Like 32 countries.
Yeah. And again, Bob Mortimer, he was announced the king, wasn't he, of comedy there, which quite rightly, you know, he should be.
Yeah.
He should be.
And what happens? Do you progress the business? Are you going to grow this animal? Can it not grow? Have you got to keep a tight ship? Are you going to put your prices up? Is there profit there?
Yeah. So, yes to all.
Yeah. That was a lot of questions. The
interviewer
just blew it.
We are recruiting at the moment, which is I'm
really busy, Steph. It's nice of you, but I've just got so much on.
This is what this is all about. This is a recruitment for you. You've not got the job, so we're actually looking for jugglers.
She's really quite funny, isn't she?
Can you juggle? No. So, we're recruiting and we go on a recruitment drive.
Where'd you go for people? With drama schools or how do you...
Yeah, it's really hard because we want people who are funny. That's a non-negotiable. Yeah. And I get all kinds of emails going, you're not being inclusive because you're saying that people have to be funny. I'm like, read the title. Yeah. We're Laughology.
Oh, it's hard when people do that, isn't it? And do we pander to that one email or just cruise on? I've learned, Steph, that you know, someone tripped up over the step. I think we need to change all the steps to a ramp. No. I go, hang on a minute, let's see.
Yeah, it's a knee-jerk
Were they drunk at a wedding?
reaction.
Oh, yeah, that might have been.
And that's it. It's context, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, humour's all about context.
And you're recruiting because you can see the book growing.
Well, we can see your organisation growing, and also which is where we want to go. So we took a strategic view probably about 5 years ago to do more of the programmes and to pitch more for the programmes, which is more about aligning the change with their strategy, really thinking like that. But you have to be funny in the way that you deliver. So we've won more programmes longer term. So we might be working with companies over a year, 2 years to really help embed a change. But that means that we need people who know organisational development, who can write a proposal, who can pitch and talk to boards because they have to present the outcomes. Right. And our team, who are amazing, don't get me wrong, but we've recruited them on the laugh side, and I always say we've got laugh and we've got ology, but we need both of those together. Yeah. So what we're recruiting for now is what we call a lead happiness consultant. Okay. So someone that can actually deliver those proposals and get them across the line to signing contracts. Funny. Yeah, and be funny. So it's quite a big ask. Yeah. And what happens with? How would you ever or would you never want to exit a business like this? How would you do that? I think I have to. I have to have that exit strategy. Even if I don't do it, what that means, if I'm always working towards an exit strategy, because it means the business can be sustainable without me. Yeah. And that needs to happen, not just for me, but for the teams I work with, because I feel I have a fundamental responsibility to my people, and I think every organisation should, that to make them be the very best person they can be, and also if something happened to me, the business runs. Yeah, it definitely needs to run without you in it, and they're suitably trained and got the skill set to be able to do it. Even though they, but they're running under your brand. I mean, So the exit strategy is there, whether that is something that happens sooner or later. But eventually, I want Laughology to exist without me. That would be, for me, the joyous, happiest and saddest thing as well. Yeah, it's difficult because you enjoy doing it. And you'd have to be stepping back so you could prove the point that with you not stood there every day, you're just the owner as opposed to the owner-operator. Yeah. And I am Steph from Laughology. Yeah. That's who I've become, and that's who's defined me, because everything else, I didn't know where I fit. So I would find it hard personally, but I absolutely need to do that.
When I hear you say what it is, in my mind, I'm going, well, why aren't you delivering other training schemes? So that's one that's called that. There should be one that's that, and there should be one that's that. Is there not a possibility to do other things with that customer base on different topics?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what we do. If you look at our website,
Right,
we
okay.
don't just offer culture change, we offer presentation skills,
Right, okay.
menopause training,
Right.
management training, leadership, wellbeing services.
Okay.
So we'll go back and we'll usually...
I'll say that again then. So when I've looked at your website, I've noticed that you
Caught
do
you
lots
out,
of other things, because I wasn't that.
Because you did your research.
So I did my research,
I blame
and
Ollie.
I have noticed on your website there's lots of other schemes that you deliver as well. And can you see in there, Steph, that there's the Laughology? Are the others growing? Are you growing those other products?
Yeah, we've got our schools program that's growing. We've also got the happiness fund. Now that's more about giving money away, but working with charities as well. But every part of what we do is growing, and it goes through peaks and troughs. So Laughology, change management, whatever we want to call it, we don't call it that. That at the moment is very, very popular. And then you'll go through peaks and troughs where things like menopause is really, really popular, menopause training. So you go through this constantly, and it's about you really understanding what topics are important to people. Like banter is really important at the moment.
We've had people come in and do training here. I've bought that in perhaps every 2 years, do something for everybody, where they've gone out on a course, everybody together, or we've had someone come in and I identify them on the spectrum and all sorts of things. We've had contractors come in. Do you think that business owners, as opposed to corporates, like solo owners and corporates, are they both doing it, or which is the easier or the harder to get into?
So the big corporates, the big blue chips are easy, because once you're in, they will continually use you and invite you to pitch for other bits of work. And also you've got so many departments that you could be in there quite a lot. The smaller businesses, like there's a company that we've worked with called ACG in the north. They're a growing insurance company, if you like. So they pay out to the people who fix your car, and then they get the money back from the insurance, if you like. And they're quite small but growing. And they've had us back a couple of times, and they really recognise the importance of development of their people to grow, because they've got a group of brilliant people, but that now they need them to step up to be managers, because they've got people below them, and getting people in as well. So it depends how large the business is. Even smaller businesses, like we develop our people, we have experts in, but also it depends what the culture's like and what the people at the top think about it.
I think I do consultancy auditing, and I sometimes get a business owner, and my bloody staff this, and if they would only do that, and I listen so far, and then I have to sort of step in and start saying, you need to understand, young business owner, whoever it is, that they are the ones that are bringing the money in, and they are the flagship of your business, and you need to start working out that's where the gold is. I have an expression, Steph, where I say that everybody says, well, the customer comes first, and in my world they don't. My staff come first, period. That's it. Because without them being happy in an environment and a culture that works, and training and everything else, and they're fit for purpose for the job, and they know it backwards, the customer can't have the experience. So then they can have the experience, so they become second on my priority list. And building the wedding venue up, we spent probably 18 months before we even saw a customer, just with staff that were in for training. And that was the way to we were building on marketing and sales at that time. But to get that right, to get that head up and that smile on, and we have had to let staff go that have a resting face that does not suit our business. It rests to sadness. And as much as they do this, didn't work, and it just didn't work in the business, and we've sort of had to work on that. As I reflect on what you're saying, I remember 2 people, we just had to let them go, because it just a wedding is all about smiles, happiness, and love and happiness. That's it.
Yeah, and I can't agree with you more. And I talk very much about my team being a family.
Yeah.
And some people disagree with that, and they say, you know, no, my family's first. And that's fine. That's okay. They've always been my family because I've seen them have children. I've seen them grow up. I've developed them. But also to your point that, you know, if you don't think that your team come first, then you've got a real problem.
You've got a real problem.
Because actually, they are your customers as well. They are going to represent your brand. Yeah. But also that means that they're not going to be the very best to other people that they can be.
I try to do this in a fortnight. I'll try for the staff we've got on now to speak to each one of them in a fortnight, and it's tough. And I'm doing lots of travelling at the moment, backwards and forwards to France. And I'll try and say, you know, face to face if I can, how was last week? And listen. And what's it look like for next week? You know, that those two questions allows them to explain how crap it's been, or how good it's been, or what the trials and tribulations have been from last week, and what they might need or are excited about going into next week. And then if we can do that question with most of the staff over a fortnight's time, and it is engaging them. I text people, you know, thanks for all your hard work in the rain for the gardening team, because it was really horrible, and I'd just driven out and it looks nice and stripy. Have a great weekend. You know, and those, it takes mindfulness to continually do it. I do it because I want to do it, but when I'm trying to get that into a customer on consultancy, they kind of look through weird eyes at me, and I said, listen, you need to embrace it, because this is your life. Your life needs to be better with these people working for you in it, and you need to work on that, and you need to be better at hiring better people that are around you that can do what you want, when you want, in the way you want, and it's important.
Yeah, and I think where workplaces get it wrong is they have people in positions who manage people, who aren't people, and you've got technical managers and you've got people managers, and they're very, very different. And what workplaces do is they promote technical managers and then put people under them. And it's okay to not be good with people, but then don't manage people, because you've got to be passionate, like you said. You've got, you can give people a script or a process. Speak to your people every single week, but do they really mean it? No, and we can tell that. So, how do we create workplaces where people are cared for, and where they do have those right conversations, where people do check in with them, and have the technical expertise on the other side to be able to drive some of the stuff that needs to happen? And that's where workplaces are getting stuck.
Steph, I mean, you've strategically placed your book here.
Yeah.
I'm going to always say, so what are you reading? Is part of our feature that Ollie has tried to push into most of our podcasts. So you're obviously reading your own book. Let's do the promotion, baby. Come on. What is this? How long did it take you to write this?
Oh, my goodness. Forever. And actually, in all honesty, I am rereading a little bit of it because I'm writing my next book, which is painful. And I've missed the deadline 3-4 times. So I'm just going back and checking what's in here. And this is one of the first things that
Let's see it to camera. Let's see what it is.
This is Laughology, the science of laughter.
Picture. It's so cool.
And it's all about the science of humour and laughter. Look, and the reason why I wrote it and I did it is there's lots of spaces for people to add their stuff in. So it's a book where people add in their own stuff. Right, I'm not stupid. I didn't really write it. I just put lines in for people to add in and write in it for. But it's a working book. And that was a brain dump from a brilliant publishers called Crown House, who got in touch with me and said, this'll be good. And it's been published now, I think, in 10 different countries.
Wow,
and it's in China, it's in Dubai, it's in France. So it's written all over the world, which is beautiful, really lovely. I need to do an Audible version, I think, for you. I'll just do one for you. But what I'm reading at the moment is How to Argue with a Racist, and it's bloody brilliant. It's very, very good.
I think the book gives very good credibility to you as keynote speaking and stuff like that you have a book. And I think that the more I look at when I go to search for someone, I always see if they've written a book. It's good. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's a PR tool.
Yeah.
Look, you're never going to make your fortune writing
No,
a book
not
because
it's just not.
It's
the
dead in the
numbers.
water, and the numbers don't add up. And it's really funny because you always meet people who go, "I've got a book in me." And it's like, have you?
Yeah.
But I think it's, first of all, it's good to get stuff out your head, and it's the best business card you could ever have.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right. What you said that people go to the grave with a song in them, don't they? I knew a good song. I was writing a song, and I think that's all down to our entrepreneurs being doers and not just talkers about it and what we do. Steph, I've been reading bits and pieces. I've been listening to podcasts more just recently. I've been doing lots of travelling, and I keep going back to Business Wars and going to Acquired. You guys, you've got to do more listening or reading and stuff. You've got to do it because it's showing you different points of view, different techniques, swipe and deploy. What you were saying in the pre-chat was, you listen to books, but you want to stop and write notes.
Yeah.
You need to write notes. We need to digest stuff and get tricks and flicks from books, podcasts and everything else that we do. Steph, if people want to go and be all things laughter and giggles, where do they find you? Sell yourself down to that camera. Let's get some work in.
So laughology.co.uk, go there. We've also got resources on the site, and you can watch. We've got a watch page, so you can watch some of me and my team do our thing, and it's all on there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you once again for coming in and spending the time with us. We've really enjoyed it. It's
Me
been great.
too.
Thank
Pleasure.
you. If you've enjoyed the episode, make sure you hit those buttons and bells, and make sure you do the subscribe and give us a comment. Let us know what you think of the pods and how we're getting on and how we're delivering the message of entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs conversation. And if I'm lucky, I'll see you on the next one.